Good afternoon. My name is Meg Griswold, and I'm an upper school English teacher at Harpeth Hall. Today, I'm going to be doing a screencast on short and long quotes from a novel, or a novel written in prose, in MLA style. Now, you may be saying, wait a minute, aren't all novels prose? No. As a matter of fact, there's a novel called Out of the Dust. It's really beautiful. It's all written in poetry. We would call it a novel because it's a long story, long form, but it is written in poetry. So we're talking about prose quotes from a novel, could also apply to a short story, in MLA style. So let me show you how you want to go about doing this. You want to make sure first that you have a heading. This is the MLA style heading, the student's name, the teacher or professor's name, the title of the course, and if it meets in a particular section, and the date. This is the MLA traditional date. I'm not picky about this, but your teacher or professor may be. So to explain, a short quote is a quote that takes up 1 to 3 lines of your essay. That does not mean that it was 1 to 3 lines of the original source. It's how it appears in your essay, because it's about the ease of readability in your essay. Long quotes are quotes that cross over to a 4th line of your paper. And in both of these examples, we're talking about direct quotations from a text, word for word, without any omissions in general or changes to the text. So to begin, we're going to do a short quotation. I want you to make sure that your spacing is correct. So in your toolbar up at the top, you have this button here above paragraph. That's line spacing. Let's make sure it's at 2 line spacing, double spaced, and I want to change, I clicked the options. I don't like this extra space there. If I'm already double spacing, I don't need that extra space after a paragraph. So I bring that down to 0 and I click OK. Okay, so let's pretend that I'm going to do a short quotation, or that's at least my intention. So I am going to begin a body paragraph for a 5-paragraph essay. Your first sentence will be your topic sentence, which will give the argument of this paragraph. At Harpeth Hall, we write 3-point thesis statements. So this first paragraph is the first point of your thesis. Begin by introducing your first quote. You want to set the scene and give the reader of your essay a brief description of where in the novel the quote occurs and what is generally happening at this point. Then you always begin with, at some point you have to explain who is talking. So for example, you might say, she says, followed by a comma, because you always set off direct quotations from the tag. This is called a tag because it's telling you, it's the tag telling you who's speaking, with a comma. And you begin your quote. Make sure you put a space after the comma, and then you would type your quote from the text here. Make sure to get all of the words right. Don't leave anything out or make any typos. Okay, now notice I am only filling up 1-2 lines. Now I'm not filling, this line isn't filled completely, that doesn't matter. My quote is taking up 2 lines of my essay. This would be qualified as a short quote because it's 1, 2, or 3 lines. So I am going to finish with a quotation mark. Push the space bar. Now I'm doing my parenthetical citation. So I'm going to put an open parentheses. I'm going to write just the number of the page. Now, if you have not already said the author of the text you are quoting, you would need to put the author's name, and then a space, and then the page number. end parentheses, period. If you have already said the title or the author of the work that you are citing, for example, in your introduction, in your essay, you will say that Sue Monk Kidd is the author of The Secret Life of Bees. If you have already stated the author, you do not need to restate it in your parenthetical. So in general, in a 5-paragraph essay that focuses on only a few texts, you would already have that author's name stated earlier. You do not need to say it again in your parenthetical. So let's recap the important points here. Always make sure to say who is speaking before your quote. I did it by including a tag. I could change this to the character's name. Lily says. Then you begin your quotation here. You end with the quotation marks, the parenthetical, in the parentheses, you write the page number. Notice there is no P, there is no number, there is just the page number, followed by the period. Very good. After your quote, remember to summarize the quote and then transition into analysis. Okay, so here we have a short quote. Now let's look at a long quote, okay? In a long quote, a fourth line of your essay is used. Even if it isn't a complete fourth line, you will consider it a long quote. When you have a long quote, it must be written in a set-off block. These are often referred to as block quotes. So, to recap, block quotes and long quotes are synonyms, okay? Again, you will begin by introducing your quote. Set the scene. Where and when does the scene take place? Who is involved? Then make sure to make it clear who is speaking. August says. Now I'm going to assume that my quote is going to be a short quote. Just assume all your quotes are going to be short quotes. So I'm going to write a nice clear tag introducing the speaker, followed by a comma, space, and I'm going to begin typing my quote. Here is my exact word for word quote from the text. I am going to try to maintain the integrity of the quote by changing as little as possible. Remember to proofread your quotes. You may be typing without looking, and you don't want to let any mistakes slip through. I will check this. Okay, notice here's my quote. Let's count how many lines it takes up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Since I have crossed over to a fourth line, this qualifies as a block quote. But wait a minute, you're saying, wait. It doesn't take up all the first line, it only takes up a little bit of the fourth line. It doesn't matter. If 4 lines are touched by your quote, it's a long quote. It needs to be a block quote. Here's what I need to do now. I need to go up to my tag. I need to delete the comma and change it to a colon. Then I'm going to move my cursor up against my quote and push enter. Enter gives me a new line. Notice now that my quote is getting separated. I'm going to highlight my quote and push the tab button. The tab button is above the caps lock button on the top left-hand corner of your keyboard. You want to push it twice. Ready? Tab, tab. Ta-da! I have now indented my block quote. Here's something else that has to change for a long quote. Remove the quotation marks. Why? Well, because you have this colon here, and because we've created this indented, this double indented quote, we do not need quotation marks. It is obvious to the readers that this is a direct quote from the text, so we can take those out. And then I'm going to follow it up with my parenthetical, 157. Now, here is one thing that's different. If this was a period, in a short quote, let's review. In a short quote, the period comes after the parenthetical. Notice, quotation mark, parenthetical, period. In a block quote, it does not work like that. In a block quote, it goes period, parenthetical, no quotation marks. Okay, so let's recap that one more time. A long quote is a quote that touches 4 lines of your paper. It doesn't matter if it fills the 4 lines, but if it touches 4 lines at any point, it's considered a long quote, and we need to set it off and make what's called a block quote. We make sure to begin our block quote with a colon rather than a comma. We remove the quotation marks. We do the period and then the parenthetical. We highlight the quote and we push tab, tab. Here's one thing I want you to be aware of that you may find. If you have the automatic indenter function turned on, which is going to be for most people, when you push enter, you're going to get this tab here. That's making it look like it's a new paragraph, but it is not a new paragraph. It's within the same body paragraph, but it is a long quote. So I want you to hit backspace to remove that space so that when you hit tab twice, you don't have a strange indentation, extra indentation, because that's the way it should look. See how they're all lined up on the left? If I were to do it and leave that single tab, watch what happens. It keeps that. I don't want that. I want the first word of my quote. The other way to fix that is just to push backspace when you're at the beginning of the quote. Make sure that space isn't there so that all of your block quote is lined up. All right, ladies, I hope that this was helpful, a helpful reminder into MLA style quotations from a novel that is prose for short and long quotes. Thank you so much.